because RNA hasn't had too much success on champions that aren't Lee Sin necessarily. He's 2-4 on Vi, 2-3 on Elise. It's a good set of bans there, I feel like, for NIP.
That surprised me. They went for the Jarvan ban because Maluna has played that pretty much exclusively this season, but they let Shen open.
Yeah, and they're just obviously going to take it away. Mimer's been struggling a lot in the top lane, so things that he is successful on is Shen, for instance, because he can just kind of ult in, turtles up in lane, isn't necessarily needed to do anything spectacular, and can then just support the team from the top lane.
And interestingly, Kraton has managed to get onto Miss Fortune. It was what he used to beat Evil Geniuses in game 1, and of course it's going to be Sona for J-Reed.
Yeah, it's kind of been the return of Misfortune lately. Near the end of Super Week with Gambit picking him up again, and then just earlier on in the playoffs yesterday, a lot of Misfortune powers coming in.
And we'll see how it works out for them, because as you mentioned, it was pretty successful throughout the whole day. I'm trying to think of whether Misfortune actually lost a game. I think one. No, that's a lie, because Genji used it. They won that game.
Yeah.
So, Ninjas in Pyjamas, they are deliberating on this one, taking a long time to discuss it, and of course the fact that a number of champions are available. Zyra as that support, and Maluna, well, he's having to switch to Maokai in the jungle. We haven't seen that for a good couple of weeks.
No, we really haven't. This is an old style jungler for what Maluna kind of used to play as. He does love doing substantial ganks and then just kind of bringing team presence, but Maokai, unlike Jarvan, is very vulnerable to early game counter jungling, so he's got to be careful.
Okay, so Aranea is going for Vi, and he has not been overly successful during the Super Week. Vlad as well being locked in by Curve. These are champions that they used during Super Week when they went 0-5.
Yeah, and for Aranea, he didn't have much left. Lee Sin was his main, and Aatrox was his fallback. So you really got to say NIP pushed him into that pick, and it's what he's going to go with. He has the Vi confidence for the most part.
Oh, it's locked in, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be Bjergsen on Fizz, and Caitlyn also for Freeze.
So Caitlyn is his most comfortable AD carry, and of course Fizz had been drawing multiple bans in the playoffs so far. Being able to lock that down with the last pick, even though they don't know what they're playing against, is good, but potentially dangerous.
Okay, so this is actually a direct counter to Fizz. We've seen this in the mid lane, which Pharrell thinking of using, but he could go with Diana. Diana worked pretty well for, ironically, Bjergsen yesterday, I believe. No, it wasn't.
No, it was Pharrell. Pharrell played it twice in their best of 3 before switching to Orianna with the last game. And to give some background, I remember the Darius versus Fizz matchup like way back when there was Tabs, who was the most known Fizz player. He actually picked it in a tournament just to go against Darius mid lane, but that's not going to be the case. Pharrell Nord's going with tried and true Diana once again. This is his 3rd time playing Diana in the last 4 games.
So 2 very much all-in assassins in that mid lane. We'll see how that works out for them, and of course whether some of the spells stay in. So let's take a look at the overall team compositions. There is a number of players on comfortable champions, but there's definitely some interesting choices in here. The fact that Maokai has now made an appearance, Maokai doesn't really synergize a massive amount with that, but there's a hell of a lot of dive by Ninja Pyjamas. If Fizz is going in, Twisted advance, of course, from Maokai, and Shen could go in there at the same time. There could be a 3-man dive comp.
Well, the thing for NIP is it is a 3-man dive comp, and then they have Zyra to protect Caitlyn, which is actually one of the best supports to do so. And if we look at Alternate's composition, it's incredibly similar to the thing they won with in game 1. The actual only difference in the team comp is instead of Aatrox in the jungle, they have Vi. Everything else is the same from what they beat EG with yesterday in their 1 game.
But the problem is, Aatrox was kind of a key part.
He was fairly important in being able to dive in, but at the same time, Vi can still get to a target and knock aside people in somewhat of the same way. It's not as synergistic as the Aatrox was, but I actually feel like it still works in the same way of just picking out a guy and going for him.
As you can see from the crowd shots there, it is pretty much packed house here in Gamescom in Cologne, Germany. And of course, why not? The German fans, they absolutely love League of Legends, and there's a number of other nations here. I've heard some English voices talking to me as well. It's good to hear an English voice now and again.
I've heard some people from Canada or America. They're kind of the same in the sense that the accents come out.
Oh, wow.
People tell me I have a Canadian
that.
accent.
I'm glad you said that.
People say I have a Canadian accent. I don't really hear it. I don't think there's much.
What are you talking about, man?
A boot? What are you talking about, man?
So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be Ninjas in Pyjamas as the blue side and Alternate as the red side. This is the 5th place playoff position. This is to stay in Season 4. The loser of this will be going into the promotion tournament. Of course, they'll be facing off against the likes of Team TCM and Ninjas in Pyjamas. Well, maybe Ninjas in Pyjamas, but it'd be TCM and Copenhagen Wolves, who obviously was Ninjas in Pyjamas in previous match. Now, if you remember, Ninjas in Pyjamas were in this situation before. They had to go in arguably the toughest playoff against Samurai and Jeans. They will not want to do that again.
No, they don't like that promotion tournament. And didn't Samurai and Jeans end up getting multiple players?
Yeah, they kind of spread across, and they're pretty much in the LCS anyway. And ironically, were going to become Ninjas in Pyjamas, but instead, because the Wolves beat them, they joined the organization instead.
Interesting story.
Also, Alternate have been through that promotion tournament twice. They failed in Poland in Warsaw, and they were successful when we did it in Cologne, but it was a hard-fought fight for them. They came back from 2-0 down 3-2. They will not want to go through that again.
Yeah, and to top this all off, Alternate was 1 game away from falling into that tournament already when they were able to win that tiebreaker against SK. So both of these teams, even though they don't want to be in this situation, are very familiar with this type of game and this type of pressure on them. Just not on a stage this size for this game.
And for Alternate fans, they must be in despair, because this is a team that went 5-0 at DreamHack. They were looking unstoppable. And honestly, for, 6 weeks, they held that #1 spot. Since the last few weeks have kind of crumbled a little bit as the rest of the team stepped up their game in preparation for the playoffs, as we saw with Evil Geniuses sort of returning back to their glory days almost yesterday in a very successful matchup against Ninjas in Pyjamas, against Alternate, sorry. We are seeing the blue buff start by Aranea, the red buff start out by Maluna. What I wanted to discuss was also the fact that Bjergsen has teleport.
Yeah, he's going to be able to probably teleport into bottom lane whenever. They have the potential of doing the Shen teleport as well as the Summoner teleport to get pretty much any lane into a 4 to 5 man gank. It also gives them some sneaky versatility. I've seen a few teams pull this off where Shen will teleport down but not Fizz, which will make people think they can make a play somewhere else, and that's when Fizz is going to come in. It's giving them a lot of versatility as long as Bjergsen can hold the lane with no escape Summoner.
And look at that, the damage already on Furano. The Ignite was used out by Bjergsen. Bjergsen already using that burst damage. Going to be looking to try and punish this lane early. And actually, the fact that Diana was picked there kind of gives Bjergsen a bit more freedom on Fizz than he would normally have against a long-ranged AP champion.
Yeah, normally Fizz has to sit back a little bit. I know even though Fizz is picked as a counter to Ahri multiple times, a lot of times he'll lose his turret because early on he can't necessarily farm or deal with the lane. But since both of those guys are melee, it actually kind of makes the laning phase for both of them better. In fact, it'll make it a little snowbally in a sense that once one guy gets a bit of an edge, it's going to be very difficult for the other one to farm since they're always so close to each other when farming.
There's a lot of pressure on that bottom lane. Maluna is heading down that way as well. And I want to talk about the 2 junglers. The fact that we have seen Maokai in him. Maokai is traditionally a bit of a support jungler, will help out and get those kills. Actually just using that sapling toss to check out that tri-bush and to make sure Aranea is not there.
I'm actually a little surprised Jerry put the ward where he's seeing the sapling right now, because as Misfortune Sona, I would expect a little bit more early aggression out of that lane, but that just tells you how much they respect Freeze and Deficio in this lane and their ability to just kind of keep their range for Misfortune and not take any counter harass, therefore pushing it to the turret.
See how Aranea does on Vi, because hasn't been overly successful. In a sense, a reasonably similar champion to Lee Sin in a way. I guess you jungle in a way, you're going aggressive, looking for those kills. We did see, I think it was Sir T that played Vi earlier on in the week at Gamescom for the European Gaming in the International Wildcard Tournament, and he was actually fairly successful with it. Of course, the Assault Battery, again, as we had before, it was a similar matchup with a Vi versus a Fizz. He can just counteract it with that Playful Trickster.
Yeah, he's not able to go for Fizz. He pretty much has to go for Freeze in these fights, because if he's going to be using a Vi ult on one of the tanks or one of the divers of NIP, it's not going to be very successful. And you're absolutely right, RNA has not had success on Vi. It's another one of these risky picks, but Alternate, as we saw yesterday when they picked Karma top lane in a game that really mattered, they have confidence in their own picks, kind of regardless of if they've had recent success with them.
And actually, if you remember, in fact, now I'm thinking back, BRTT was on Caitlyn in that game, and of course he went for that Banshee's Veil, and suddenly
once he had that, it kind of shut Vi down.
Yeah,
and that would pretty much only leave Deficio, but that's not going to work anyway. As it is, RNA needs to make his presence felt early.
Trying to get on towards Bjergsen, but already just slides away from that one. No problems whatsoever there. Frelnlord didn't really get the help he required. Maluna is going to hold out that lane in terms of farm. Bjergsen had built up a bit of a lead, but that will just get balanced out. Creator's got to be careful he doesn't get caught by one of those Piltover Peacemakers. Use the 90 caliber net. Didn't get the combo down though.
Yeah, and J-Ree's running very low on mana. It just shows you how much NIP's been able to destroy this lane, making him go back to base already, almost doubling his farm. And this is kind of a touchback to our featured matchup here. Freeze is completely dominating Creation on the lane right here. Picking that Misfortune so early allows Freeze to pick his tried and true Caitlyn, which he's played more than double, twice as much than any other AD carry. Incredibly confident and incredibly good on that champion.
Considering Creaton was the highest KDA in European LCS 4 forever, I think, until he's finally broke his hand and everybody else caught up a little bit on him. But he was definitely very high up there. I think it was 27 after the first week, 27 KDA. And
I feel like so much of that was also on Ezreal, which makes the Misfortune pick almost like he's just trying to change his style entirely. If he's going to play, you know, Misfortune the Creaton way is 12-3 and 6 against EG, it's because he sits so far back in the teamfight phase, so it kind of makes up for him not having an arcane shift like Ezreal does, and he's really just an ultimate bot and then really late fight cleanup.
J-Ree, back in those early days, did use Fiddlesticks very early. Bjergsen going aggressive on towards Pharrell here. Pharrell using the moonfall.
Oh, he might get him.
Throw out their ultimate. He's going to catch on towards him. The Ignite should take it down. It's going to be first blood by Bjergsen.
And that was just total domination by Bjergsen. As you can see, it was double Doran's ring to pretty much nothing on Pharrell. Pharrell hadn't decided to go shop, and they might go 2-for-0.
Creaton having to use that barrier, flashes away, but the Ignite is ticking. It won't quite have enough though. They can't shove the lane quick enough to get to him.
These lanes early on are definitely going NIP's way, which really makes it not a good thing for Alternate, because we know RNA needs to be able to make his presence felt fairly early. And to get back to that Pharrell and Lord Bjergsen duel, that wasn't even close. And the fact that Pharrell and Lord picked Diana into a Fizz, it has to go better than that in that matchup for Alternate to use that pick successfully.
He must have felt confident in that pick. The fact that he countered, like you say, he countered into it. Well, not so much countered it, but just picked into it. He must feel there is something in there that he can use with Diana. It was very successful for him yesterday, so he's sticking with what he knows. And this is actually Alternate sort of play style. We heard Aaron Ayer talking about it before, Ace in the hole being thrown out, Jamie blocking that one off, but they talked about the fact that they stick to champions they actually enjoy playing, rather than potentially throwing a team comp all around something solid. They'll just say, we enjoy playing this champion, it works well for you, so maybe just stick with what you know.
And there is a certain benefit to doing that in some cases, because you never want to play a champion you're not good at just to fit the team comp. But you got to be careful about it. If you're using your last pick, you need to be confident that you're able to counterpick, and especially in Europe, where last pick is almost always used for the mid lane, against a player like Bjergsen, who is incredibly important to NIP's success. Fromler's got to make sure that this Diana pick is actually confident. And honestly, he can do this against Fizz. Diana is not a bad pick against Fizz. He just has to perform.
Bjergsen, you can see having some great results on Fizz against Fnatic, 10-5-4. That was up against Peke in that mid lane, which is no easy feat. The highest killer, I guess you could say, in the LCS.
In Europe.
He's got a massive number of kills. In fact, he's way ahead by about 40 plus ahead of anyone else. We'll be seeing, of course, Fnatic up against Evil Geniuses after this game concludes. This is a best of 3 though, and right now Freeze is dominating this bottom lane along with Deficio. 77 CS to 42. That is a giant lead now.
And because NIP has been pushed up to this turret for so long, I was actually expecting RNA to come down and try that level 6 Vi gank, now level 7, because he has spent so much time just farming on Vi, as he did yesterday with Aatrox. And it's the wards that keep catching him out as he tries to go and gank, but he needs to make something happen with this Vi. Otherwise, he's just farming for nothing.
Well, we're seeing Kerp and Mima in the top lane, and Mima once again falling behind in CS, but Bjergsen is up here to help him out. He's already used the Hemo Plague, so that's his ultimate gone down, and Mima's going to keep chasing on towards him. Has to back away from this fight, but Bjergsen could come in and finish this off. He's going to try and catch on towards Kerp. The moment he comes out of there, not going to be too afraid to dive towards this turret, but instead Kerp has managed to use that Ghost and pull to get away.
Yeah, and it's a good thing Bjergsen didn't decide to dive through because he would have been flashed away. RNA going for it!
Assault and battery on Bjergsen does use that playful trickster to get onto the turret. It's going to be a dangerous thing to dive a Fizz on a turret, despite the fact that there is 3 members there. He has got his ultimate available. He can throw out that fish at any time. It'd be a great whale. I think he's not on the... It's not going to be popping out there. Instead, he gets a little poke on Forellenlord, keeps him back in bay there. Playful trickster comes around, keeps on bouncing the damage towards ultimate. They can't push his turret.
Yeah, Bjergsen really doing his best to stop this, and they might think about going in for a 2v3.
He's going to throw out, there's that great whale popping up there. Forellenlord's going to be the target. He tries to get away. The Ignite should take him down. Maluno comes in and cleans up, though. How's he going to be able to get away, though? Alternate turned his back around. You're going to see the Vault Breaker from RNA. It forces the flash out. They could collapse on towards him. There it is. Kerp gets in. It's a 2-for-1.
And NIP was trying to use their global presence. Mimer was about to ult in on Bjergsen as he finished off, so Alternate's ability to burst damage down onto Bjergsen was clutch in that exchange, giving them a 2-for-1. If Shen made it in, that could have been totally different.
So a big bit of plays by Alternate, and honestly, checking all the lanes, it was a much needed play as well, but that's the first turret of the game. Alternate creating that situation up in that top area. Meanwhile, we do see Creaton and J-Ree, they are still struggling out in that bottom lane. It's 101 CS to 55 now.
Yeah, and that lane is really getting out of hand at this point. That is an almost unheard of matchup in a 2v2 in pro games, especially with someone who's known as strong of a laner as Misfortune.
So we see Bjergsen back in that mid lane. It's actually 600 gold ahead of Forellenlord, but it is those AD carries, as you mentioned. It's about 600 or 700 gold now built up between those two. Bjergsen farming out this lane. Looks like Ninjas in Pyjamas are all counteracting towards Aranea, who's trying to take down that pink ward. The pink ward battle has begun on Dragon, and it's Ninjas in Pyjamas that force Alternate away.
And all 5 members of both teams are coming down here. There's a couple ultimates that are just coming back for Alternate. They're going to have Hemo Plague in a fraction of a second. There's no Shen ulti, so this is actually a pretty dangerous fight for NIP as they're getting cornered inside this dragon.
And that's dangerous stuff. They're going to go into a curve. That's going to be a Stranglethorn coming down. Crescendo lands across. Bullet time back in there as well. Deficio might get taken by Hemo Plague. It doesn't matter. Forellenlord dives in towards him. He gets on towards him. Mimer now taking low. Aranea trying to get away. Azinar's going to come through. That cat's on towards Kerp. He's not able to get out of the way from that one. Creaton now he's going to get dived upon. Should be enough. Bjergsen gets in there, gets the kill. Now he's trying to get away from the Forellenlord. That's going to be twisted advance from Maluno. Catching up, locking up Forellenlord. He tries to get away, but it's a quick slice through on Bjergsen.
Wow.
And he picks himself up another kill. It's a 3-for-1 to Ninjas in Pyjamas.
And that was just NIP showing how much stronger they were at this point. They forced that one and came out on top regardless of how much damage the dragon had done to them beforehand. This is an incredibly bad sign for Alternate because they had everything up in that fight and seemingly the positional advantage, but NIP still came out on top, plus the dragon.
Potential for gold snowball there, and Freeze, I might add, could have been one of the big differences there because he'd already got that BF sword, because he built that big CS advantage, whereas obviously we saw the bullet time from Creaton just didn't have the damage to back it up.
Absolutely not. I mean, Freeze just lane domination on Creaton, just everything going Freeze and Deficio's way. That's just going to get worse for Creaton at this point because Freeze has the range on him for the most part, and unless Creaton can find some way to close the gap, maybe catch Deficio in some off crescendos and burst him down to the bullet time, but without the attack damage in that lane, and because Freeze is just so far ahead, it's becoming pretty dire.
The saving grace right now for Alternate is Kerp. Kerp's been playing very well in that top lane. He's 1-1-2, got himself that Hex Drinker in there, but look at Bjergsen. He's got himself that Lich Bane already, and he's going to be looking to make some plays. Blue buff is up. Bjergsen will pick that one up and see whether he counters out and decides to go for anything. Forellenlord's going to get himself the blue buff as well. And Aranea, well, he's been playing Vi to not so much success lately, and we're waiting to see whether it works out for him again. He's 0-0-2, so he's not doing too badly. He's got himself those boots of mobility to get around and try and help out these engages, but hasn't been a presence really in the lane so far.
Not really, and he hasn't been a big presence in team fights either. It needs to come together for Alternate. They're only 2,000 gold down at this point. Even though they were actually the ones to take the first turret, it just shows how far behind they generally are in farm. And to kind of get back to that saving grace of Alternate with Kerp against Mimer, that has actually been NIP's problem recently. I mean, once Extinct left, I know they have replaced him with Mimer, but it just has not been the same for them, and they almost need to make up for that in these games.
And you just got to think of the pressure that it is on Mimer. The fact that he only joined from week 7 or 8, I believe it was, replacing Extinct. This is the first tournament he's played in front of a crowd.
Yeah.
He wasn't in Tenerife, he wasn't in DreamHack, he wasn't at Moscow, he didn't experience all of those crowds. This has got to be a high pressure situation for effectively a player that is just one of you guys sat watching this right now. He was just happened to be very high, of course, in the rankings, had three champions up in the high LCS rankings in the Champions Challenger Series, so that's why he got picked out the solo queue.
Yeah, and just to pile on, by the way, if you don't do well, your team's probably going to go into the promotion tournament, so good luck, have fun.
No pressure at all. Someone that was in high spirits though was Freeze, and it seems to be just bleeding into his play. I already saw him this morning as they came on the shuttle, and he had a big grin on his face. Maluna was not too happy about the early morning, but Freeze seemed in high spirits.
Yeah, and it's hard to be in spirits like that after getting one shot by Alex Each's Kale the night before. I saw a tweet by him. It was a 2,114 damage death recap from Kale in 0.11 seconds. And that's basically what happened to him, like, right before they got dropped into this tournament. So he's got an amazing mindset to be able to just come back and be like, yeah, let's do this, guys.
We just got destroyed, but don't worry, we got this. We can go straight back into it. So Ninjas in Pyjamas, they are stacking 4 members in the mid lane. They're looking to try and push this turret. Alternate have a 4-man defense here, though, so they should be able to bully them away after a little while. Maluno has been doing a great job of locking up for Elnor. He dived on a couple of times now with that twisted advance, and so half the hit points off that turret just shredded down in that single wave.
Yeah, Maluno's pretty much just trying to annoy Pharrell Lord in a lot of these team fights, it seems. The Maokai pick, not sure if it's really turned out yet. I do know that since he's made it out of the early game at this point, as long as NIP has enough damage, which they probably do with that Fizz, his late game teamfight utility is incredibly high if NIP controls the positioning of the fights.
Bjergsen heading up towards the top lane. Kurt baiting him in towards that bush. He knows he's still sticking around Kurt. He's not going to go too deep. This is a potential dive on the tower, and Kurt is walking well away from this one, well aware of the situation.
Yeah, he sensed that one. I don't even... It was basically just because Mimer was waiting in the brush, and it's like he wouldn't be waiting there without farming if there wasn't someone on the way. So very smart move there of Kerp to just run back.
In the same saving grace, he's got to be careful.
They switched it up this time, so now Shen is shown, but Bjergsen is in there. Kerp, if he gets into range to check the brush with his E, he would have seen Bjergsen anyway.
Yeah, Bjergsen had just cleared the wave as well, but there's going to be a Lich Bane hitting on that turret. Kerp's going to try and wipe them out from many a wave as quick as possible. Frontal comes up to try and help him out, but this is buying time for that mid lane again, and they are starting to keep pressure on that middle turret. The middle turret very low now. Deficio going to take that one down. Freeze doing the damage. And
keep in mind, if NIP wants to, they could actually get 5 people mid fairly quickly. That's why they had the Shen and the Fizz up top. I wonder if Bjergsen's going to try for something 2v2 here, even though Shen would have to ult in on him. He might go for it. He's been looking for a fight for a while.
He may well just pop across his bush. Here comes Mimer. Mimer's going to come around, so he's going to save that stack.
Yeah, they're going for it.
Two of them coming around the backside. Where's that Shadow Dash going to land? It's going to be Frenlo they aim for. He's on the turret as well. He's going to dive in towards it. That's the Hemo play coming out. They're actually split targeted right now. Now they decide to stack up on towards Frenlo. There's the ultimate from Maluna. Twisted advance on towards Kip. Trying to lock him down here. Bjergsen taking very low. Has to go in the push, so he's saved. It was only 1 kill, and that was interesting, the split target fight.
Yeah, I actually feel like Bjergsen was trying to ult onto who was taunted, but Vladimir was just kind of in the way, and then they decided to go for Pharrell Lord anyway. That's the reason Maluno locked him down. That's seemingly his goal in this game, is just to stop Diana from doing things. In that fight, there was actually a really great dodge by Bjergsen as well. He playful trickster Diana's Q, which is effectively what saved his life in the end.
So Bjergsen on 142 CS to 124 for Lord, but more importantly 5-1-0, and that stretched his gold lead to 1600 ahead of Pharrell Lord. That is that needlessly large rod he has in his backpack. That is simply the difference right now, and that's going to equate to big items later on.
And things are going great for NIP as far as gold distribution goes, just in general. You saw there Bjergsen and Freeze were well ahead of every other member of NIP, and that's the way they kind of need to be, since Freeze and Bjergsen are completely relied upon in this team composition as being the damage threats. They picked a low damage overall team composition, 2 real threats here, and really a bunch of supports, but it's working out for them because their threats have the gold.
Well, the Dragon is being taken by Alternate, and actually, Ninjas in Pyjamas didn't really react to that one. They weren't in position, kind of caught out there, and that's going to be the first Dragon for Alternate. Now NIP calls technically first one themselves, so they were a little off on their timing there.
Yeah, NIP just went back to base. at the wrong time, which is a little curious since they had the exact timer on the last dragon. I feel like they were just a little surprised at Alternate's ability to just go straight for the dragon on the timer, since Alternate was behind and had previously lost a dragon fight. They didn't think Alternate would just go for it straight away.
So, looking at the bottom lane, Mimer's been spending a lot of time just sat in the bush, waiting out the way there, hoping that somebody would come down there. He hasn't. He's just sitting in that bush. He hasn't been pushing the lane. I think they're trying to bait probably either Kerp down here or Forellenlord to see if they can get him split pushing.
I mean, if you don't see him, is he really there?
He is a ninja.
Yeah. He should probably be farming. In all honesty, he's only at 105 minion kills, just has that Spirit Visage, and he's going to need to be a person who at least has an answer for Diana and Vlad in any split push scenario. I think he's just hoping that people are afraid of him because he's not shown. Now he's going to farm it. He was a little afraid of pushing up past halfway, I think.
He just forces Forellenlord to back away from that minion wave, so he's going to be happy farming, keeping that split push going that we see Shen doing so often. Bjergsen does it himself quite often as well, and he is sitting waiting, and once again in that bush. The fish in the bush, in the reeds, ready and waiting to pounce on Kerp, and I don't know how the heads up this would actually fight out right now. That needly large rod that he got can make him that extra power. He
has a whole bunch of damage, but Kerp has both his summoner spells out. If anything, Kerp's probably going to want to just run away, and since Bjergsen didn't have vision of the rest of Alternate, he's deciding just to farm. He was hoping that maybe Kerp would walk into him so he could get some guaranteed damage, but it was too dangerous of a fight for him to just go all out on him.
Just dive in, use that Playful Trickster more as an escape mechanism. He has just wiped out the wave, and look, you see Kerp warding out that blue buff, wants to give himself the cover. Now it's a 2v1 situation up here, and Bjergsen actually out of position. Stand United, of course, from Mime is available should they try and collect on towards it.
Yeah, I actually wonder if NIP can win this fight regardless if they decided to take it. Even so, Bjergsen is just toying with Kerp at this point. Goes in, makes sure Aranea can't even get in range, and it ends up just wasting a bunch of time. Aranea is still not able to get involved in many things, 22 minutes in already.
And speaking of farm, you know, he's doing a very good job. Kerp and Bjergsen actually fairly even, but more importantly, Freeze. He's nearly 80 CS ahead of Kraton.
It is just a slaughter as far as Caitlyn versus Misfortune goes right now. He's a full Last Whisper up on him, which is an incredible boon for Freeze's power.
Oh, and it's going to be Kerp that gets dived on Hemoplague, and a lot of tower hits on towards Bjergsen. The tower does go down now, so now Bjergsen's going to chase in. They're both very low, and Bjergsen realizing they didn't want to dive it towards that bushes. You see the pink glow of that Lich Bane, and well, Kerp's going to get some lifesteal back here. This is a dangerous time for Bjergsen, because coming up behind is Forellenlord. Kerp is going to keep on running this one. Wants to get in towards that turret. I'm not too sure whether he can catch up, because that ghost that Kerp used may well buy him time. It's going to be a 10-second timer. That tower will not kill him. He's going to use that Paul Tides of Blood and just use the death to the turret.
While it is nice that he didn't give up the kill to Bjergsen, I feel like Kerp still lost that exchange. He burned both of his summoner spells and his ultimate. Plus, he hasn't actually stopped Bjergsen from shoving the wave. If Forellenlord can then turn a killer on a Bjergsen, it becomes worth it. And this is going to have to be one hell of an escape.
It's going to have to use Stand United, I feel, here. They're going to have to get in. There is the Stand United coming out towards Forellenlord. Forellenlord's going to get baited. He's going to get the Shadow Dash, but he gets the kill in time. And now Forellenlord will just walk away. Will Mime be able to put the damage down? I'm not too sure. In the mid lane, there is action happening there, but it's going to be Forellenlord that gets caught out. The Shadow Dash comes on towards him. Has Mime got the damage before he gets to the turret? I don't think he does. I think Forellenlord should be able to walk away from this one.
Yeah, Mimer kind of showing there how he is a completely underfarmed Shen. Still no Sunfire Cape and cannot put a threat onto Diana, but there was the kill in mid lane, and NIP trying to put down more damage.
And Aranea having to take a hell of a lot of beating there, so Freeze still keeping that damage down. No surprise to see J-Re going down in that mid lane from that action. So it was actually a 1-for-1, despite the fact it was in different lanes, but it was into Pyjamas putting the pressure on the mid lane.
Yeah, it must have been a Maluno catch on Maokai or something to be able to catch J-Re, and then just Freeze's damage is so high at this point in the game. 235 minion kills, Last Whisper and Bloodthirster, and he's really just still sitting on about 2,000 gold. Freeze is going to be taking over this game shortly.
Didn't even use the crescendo either, so must have caught him off guard or simply locked him up in time that he couldn't do anything about it. Gold-wise, well, look at that. It's 2,300 advantage for Freeze right now. In the mid lane, of course, it's a 1,500 gold advantage for Bjergsen as well. Even the junglers actually is Aranea and heading gold because he's just been farming for so long.
137 farm is actually pretty significant for Vi, and Vi does do well with large amounts of farm, so we can't necessarily call alternate out of this one yet. As well, the last time they ran this composition, they went with the double aura items as well. We got to see a Locket of the Iron Solari on RNA and also a Will of the Ancients on Kerp. Kerp still has the opportunity to go for Will of the Ancients later, so they might make up some of this gold deficit if they can force team fights with their aura items, like they successfully did against EG in their victory yesterday.
Well, Mimi now has that Sunfire cape, and he's continuing that split push. And Ninjas in Pyjamas, they are continuing to do like a double split push strat here. They're thinking of going off towards alternate, dragging up in 10 seconds time. This time, Molino went for the twisted advance there and cancelled it out.
Yeah, he lost vision right as he was going to start it, so he didn't actually start following. That was, you know, as close as you can get to starting the fight.
Yeah, he definitely went for that one, but it's going to be the Dragon going down incredibly quickly there. Ninja Pyjamas took it so fast. Oh, that's going to be the ultimate thrown out. It is going to catch on towards Lord. They dive straight in. Ace in the hole coming in as well, but quick protection comes out. Lord will escape.
Yeah, that was just a full run from alternate, especially once the Shark landed on Lord. It ends up burning the Flash. Obviously, the Shark's coming up before that, and NIP got the Dragon out of that whole exchange. So really just the last two Dragons have been about whoever thinks of it first. They're just the ones who know the timer and decide to go for it, because alternate, even if they wanted to contest that, weren't necessarily in position.
Bjergsen will be taking blue buff for himself. RNA is taking the red. See whether he manages to get involved in one of these fights, because I feel that RNA is going to have to dive in, have to try and create something, because he's got Aegis of the Legion in there now, so the Iron Locket will be following soon. So just beginning again some of that tankiness that he's required to go full force and dive in. Lord's been trying to create something, but as of yet, every time he goes in, he just takes so much damage and he has to get straight out of it.
Yeah, and specifically, Molino is just locking onto him whenever he goes into fights. So not only does he have to worry about keeping himself alive, he has to worry about his mobility within the team fights. Can he continue to dive through? When alternate was successful with Pharrell North Diana yesterday, it's because he basically had freedom of where he was going, since Aatrox was usually in directly with him. That combo hasn't necessarily been playing out so far for them, because Aranea and Pharrell North haven't been synced in the small amount of fights we've had.
A lot of farm going to waste in the top lane. Pharrell North's gone up there. He's got to be careful. Bjergsen's laying in wait in that bush though. He's been here for a good 20 or 30 seconds waiting for someone to come up here. And it is going to be Lord. He's going to aggress on. He's coming around the backside towards him. Will manage to dash towards. Lord tries to get on there. There's going to be the Great White Child. Sorry, it is a killer whale that pops out. Lord, though, turning his back around on towards Bjergsen. Bjergsen realizing he can't quite win that fight anymore.
Yeah, getting within the turret is a dangerous thing. And also the fact that Diana has built so much magic resist. He's at 131 MR on Diana with those Mercury treads adding to his Abyssal Scepter. He's got a little bit of Bjergsen immunity at this point, especially under a turret.
But more importantly, Ninjas in Pyjamas took an objective there. They took that middle turret down while he was being distracted. And again, now it's 4 members of Ninjas in Pyjamas in this bottom lane continuing to push in there. They will back off a field because Bjergsen's already gone away. So they don't have that split push pressure anymore.
This would actually be Alternate's opportunity to find a 5v4 if they were fast enough to chase down, which is why you can see them actually approaching very strongly. I wonder if they're just going to try to go in regardless. I don't know why NIP's sticking around, teleporting in though.
Ninjas in Pyjamas going, Bjergsen teleports in. He just see the crescendo coming in, but it only caught 1 member. The Shadow Dash locks up Kurt, but Aranea comes around the side, catches a great Bolt Breaker. A Hemo Blade landing on everyone as well, but Bjergsen going deep in there, jumping around. Please all playful Trickster. He's going to get taken down, but is that too much damage? We see Alternate trying to back away from this one. We can see Maluna trying to close the gap. Creaton having to run for it. It's a 2-for-1 still so far, and Alternate have escaped. And Ninjas in Pyjamas, they tried to turn it around, but not too successfully.
Always forget about that mid lane teleport, especially if you're in a game with the Shen, because you're so used to Shen, worry about Stand United, he's coming in, and oh, actually they have 5 people here. NIP turns it around, gets Alternate out, because Alternate was looking for a fight, because they thought they had that 5v4. It was not the case. Bjergsen came in after buying Zhonya's and just gets the 2-for-1 plus another objective.
So Ninjas in Pyjamas, they are currently 5-1 up in turrets. Big objectives gained here. And Alternate are under pressure in game 1, and you've got to wonder how much confidence that would knock on them. The fact that they went 0-5 in Super Week. They did pick up a very good victory against SK Gaming, and they looked so strong yesterday. I just wonder, over the night, how much really has affected them, that loss. The fact that they're into this position, whether they're... We talked about, we talk about SK Gaming, how much of a confidence team they are. Alternate are very similar.
They are, and they have been on the decline for quite some time now. They've gotten a few little boosts here and there, like when they beat SK to make it to these playoffs. But all in all, they have just been on a decline, and that does not look good for them in this game.
It does not. So Ward's getting placed out, and of course, Baron at 30 minutes is certainly a viable objective. Lord going up towards the top, on towards Bjergsen. Bjergsen is just going to back away from this one. Doesn't want to go for the fight. Lord looking aggressive here. He has got Zonya's hourglass, so he may be able to go too deep on this one. Aranea coming around. I've got that Vault Breaker to try and close the gap. Ninja Pyjamas, though, they're all close by.
And considering how much time Bjergsen has spent kind of waiting in a bush this game, he's got a remarkable number of minion kills, 241. The only person ahead of him on alternate is the Vladimir Kerp at 252. Across the board, NIP is just farming fantastically. Freeze plus Bjergsen may just be all the damage they need now with that 7,000 gold lead.
Yeah, see, he's 11,800 to 7,800. It's a 4,000 gold advantage for Freeze.
It's a little bit. That's at least...
That's an infinity edge.
I mean, Riv always talked about how it feels to get hit in the face with 2,000 gold, how it just destroys you. Try 4,000 gold. I feel like it's going to hurt even more. Just the item differential that Freeze has been able to accumulate over Creatine is just not even close. It's a full Phantom Dancer plus defensive itemization.
Plus the Negatron Cloak, yes. And the Berserker Greaves as well. It's a huge, huge difference for Freeze right now, and that's why I think Ninjas and Pyjamas are feeling so confident. We are continuing to see Mima with that split push in that side. Kerp is the only man that seems to be able to stop him, and I actually feel he probably could stop him, probably could, but the fact is Mima's not going to stick around long enough to wait and actually die. It's going to take him a hell of a long time to kill him off. Ninjas and Pyjamas, meanwhile, continue to ward out, to take control of this Baron area. Not too sure whether they're going to go for it, whether it's simply a case of keeping it clear.
I think they want to keep it clear, and they want to pull a fight in this area. They're not a team that has a huge amount of damage for Baron. Caitlyn kills it very quickly, but the rest of the team doesn't. They're hoping that Alternate goes in a bad place to either get vision back or stop what they think is a Baron.
They're actually in a good situation to do Baron as well, because Kerp's a long way away from this, and he'd have to ghost towards it. Of course, Mima could just use that Stand United and go straight towards there, so yeah. Alternate actually are quite out of position here.
And they're clearing out the wards. Alternate has to respect NIP's ability to do the Baron, which is why they're all sticking around. And with Kerp off on the side there, it could have actually been an opportunity for NIP to try it, but it's still a risk.
Well, it does seem that Ninjas and Pyjamas have stepped away from this one. Dragon has spawned. That seems to be their objective instead. They have a good coverage of Baron, so they know they're not going to lose out as they head down here. So that's going to secure themselves a little bit more gold. That's they are, what, 6,000 ahead now. That's going to stretch it to 7,000. 5-1 up in turrets. Big advantages for Ninjas and Pyjamas in here in game one. But if you think of Ninjas and Pyjamas versus Gambit, they had a big lead, and that siege on the inhibitor turret was what turned the game around for Gambit. They actually managed to turn the game on its head. That was still around about 6,000 gold lead to NIP and then. So I wonder if that's playing in their minds, just how cautiously they're playing right now. I
think it should, and especially when Bjergsen is on Fizz, having so much damage kind of in that small package that has to go in so aggressively is a little bit dangerous. If Bjergsen messes up in a fight, Freeze essentially has to kill 5 people, which even though he's farmed, since he's built that Guardian Angel, he's not doing that much damage yet. NIP is going to be cautious because of yesterday and because their team is a little bit risky with only 2 threats.
So NIP are all around the Dragon once again. As it is, this time they will start it off because Kerp is miles away from this fight. He's going to have to hit that ghost and run like a bat out of hell up that river, and I don't think it's going to happen. The Dragon already down, the Baron already below half health. We do see Aranea off the side. He's got to go for the steal. He's going to come in. So he's got the steal. He's managed to take it down. He's going to try and get out of it. He's flashed away as well. Bjergsen does manage to lock him down, but it doesn't matter. Alternate get the Baron.
How many Baron seals have we seen even this weekend? I'd actually say it's been stolen more than secured by the person on top of it. That was just a risky move by NIP. Even though they recognized they didn't have a fight, they never cleared away vision. They didn't peel for a fight. They just opted into a 50-50 for Baron. And against a team that you're beating badly, it is not a good decision. Aranea gets the clutch steal, and I think keeps Alternate in this game.
Yeah, it seemed that Lord, when he went in there, used that Moonfall to pull him in, then just popped that Zonya's hourglass straight away, and everybody was focused on him. They seemed to ignore Aranea sat in there.
Yep.
Simple smite, no problem. Smite actually between both of them. Maluna had used it just too early.
Yeah, it's, even though your team is providing a little bit of damage, it's a 50-50. You can't say like, oh, we had a 1 level advantage. It doesn't matter. You're smiting based off of a little bit of guesswork and a little bit of just health bar watching. If you just watch the health bar actually when you're trying to smite Baron, you're generally never going to get your smite off because so much damage hits around the threshold with which you want to smite that you have to guess it. You have to predict how the Baron's going to get spiked, and honestly, you have to smite early because that's usually going to be how you get it. It was just a little too early for Maluna.
So Kraton, he has to play catch up here. He has to get himself relevant back in this game because Freeze is now 130 CS ahead of him. And that is a giant lead. You can see in terms of, it's basically a full Guardian Angel right now. Phantom Dancer already in there, but Infinity Edge is being picked up by Kraton, and when he gets that, it doesn't matter how far behind he is. Once he's got those 3 critical, strong items, he's going to be a serious problem in team fights.
Yeah, and Caitlyn can give herself a fair bit of attack speed just from her W, so it'll be okay for him if he's able to get a few crits. Freeze actually needs to make sure he gets to an Infinity Edge sooner rather than later. Considering he hasn't been taking much enemy fire in team fights, I'm actually a little surprised he went for the Guardian Angel instead of just more damage, and it might hold NIP back a little bit in these fights.
Meanwhile, Kerp, of course, he's been farming up a Storm. He's got himself 100 plus CS advantage over Mima. Mima himself was split pushing it, as is he doing right now. He's done that bottom lane. And you see Alternate, now that they have that Baron, they are thinking, let's actually start getting some of these objectives down, because they have only taken that one top turret.
It's crazy to think how little turret pressure Alternate has had this entire game. 36 minutes in, and they haven't even taken that mid turret below half. A lot of that was because Bjergsen dominated the mid lane matchup against Fereldenlord. And even though NIP is against a team with Baron, they have no hesitations going in.
Teleport comes in, Maluna gets on towards Fereldenlord. Meanwhile, you see just off the side, that's a great bullet time coming out from Kraton. That is going to be Bjergsen getting locked up. Deficio taken low now. They have managed to get in there, but Kerp's picked himself up a second kill. Mima's trying to desperately run away from this one. Freeze's Guardian Angel has been popped. He's going to get taken down. On towards there. It's a triple kill for Kerp. Now they're on towards Maluna. Can he pick up another one? They are just going to lock him down. He's not going to be able to get away in these turrets. The more damage comes towards it, it's going to be Jay Ree that picks up the kill, but that will be the outer, the inner, and possibly the inhibitor for Alternate.
And they're just going to keep going because these death timers are monstrous. We talked about how dangerous a team fight can be when you only have 2 real damage dealers. Bjergsen went in a little too deep, got focused down, and then NIP had nothing left. Alternate had the Baron as well and just ripped through NIP.
Crazy play. Ninja Pyjamas, they just seem to just lose their mind there, realizing they're attacking open battlefield against a team that's just taken the Baron away from you. Don't matter how far behind you push them, they have the Baron.
And especially if Bjergsen is in the wrong spot in that fight. That basically evens the game, if not gives Alternate a bit of an edge. From 5 turrets to 1, it's about to go to 5 turrets to 5, plus the Baron's still on them, and the inhibitor is down. This completely turns the tides of almost everything.
And Kerp just cleaning up in there, that's going to give him such a big boost. In terms of gold, well, you know, those big leads that Bjergsen and Freeze have built up are going to start falling away. It's not going to matter how far ahead you are when you've only got 4 or 5 items stacked in there, because everybody's starting to get to the exact same situation. We do see Kraton, he goes back, gets that Infinity Edge completed along with the Bloodthirster and Last Whisper, still yet to actually upgrade his boots. Still only the level 1 boots in there. We talked about that Guardian Angel, how useless it may well be for Freeze, and it simply was. He got caught out, and there was no coming back from it.
Exactly, because the rest of his team had already fallen by the wayside. It was no real benefit to him, and I want to see actually what Kerp buys here. He's sitting on over 3,000 gold. That fight catapulted him into the level of items that Bjergsen and Freeze have been able to accumulate. I almost wonder if he's farming for a death cap at this point to really just cap off that build of full cooldown reduction plus magic penetration. That will make him so deadly if he goes for that. Or he could just go for Zhonya's and make himself even more difficult to focus in fights.
No, God only knows what it'd be like if he was actually using a mouse.
Yeah, if he was using a real mouse, not one of those trackballs.
He does get that right, little death cap though. And it is going to be the Dragon Ninjas in Pyjamas. They are still securing objectives. They are still ahead in gold. So NIP fans, do not despair. They are not out of this yet. Alternates simply have stole a little bit of a snowball on them. So the 4th Dragon for NIP, they do keep themselves just slightly ahead of the curve. That Baron has just about worn off as well. So Alternate back to status quo, albeit with a big chunk more items. RNA with that Banshee's Veil now stacked up. He's not too worried about Bjergsen anymore. No. With the burst damage in there, and actually with that Zhonya's Hourglass also on Ferelnor, there's a number of them that just simply don't care about him anymore.
Yeah, I feel like this game is actually completely turned, even though the gold hasn't completely turned yet. An alternate can just go for a fight.
Maluno totally caught out of position, thought the rest of the team were there, but he's just, the tower went down so quick, I think he just caught him off guard.
And now with the 4v5, no one to stop Ferelnor or Kerp from getting to their targets, still with a Vialt up. I expect RNA to go maybe even on the next wave.
So Mima already lost over 1,000 hit points, gets caught again. He's down to half health, and he can't really stick around, but if he backs away, then you can see Alternate just coming straight in. They're going for it anyway. They're going to try and push on towards the inhibitor turret. You can see Ninja Pyjamas, they have to be so cautious. They can't fight for this inhibitor. They've let the turret go, and they're not going to just put any damage down here. It is going to be Alternate that come in and take the second inhibitor turret of the game.
It just went from bad to terrible for NIP at this point. The gold doesn't matter. They're down 2 inhibitors, and Maluno isn't doing stuff right now. If he's not initiating on priority targets and going in, the team is struggling. And after losing 2 inhibitors, still not having your jungler up, they're giving up another Baron. And if that Baron was enough to turn it the first time when Alternate was down 5 to 10,000 gold, now that they're even in gold, it might be over.
Look at the player cams, the faces. We talked about how Alternate are a confidence team. Since that Baron steal, Araneo is literally jumping up and down in that chair. He is bouncing around, he is shouting the orders, he is the captain of the team, and he is non-stop communicating. Big smiles on the faces of Ferelnor and Creaton. They know that they have managed to steal this game from the depths of despair back into it, and they have such a strong lead. The Ninja Pyjamas are going to be wondering what the hell went wrong after this. Why did they go for Baron?
Yeah, that's what went wrong. They went for Baron when clearly RNA was in range to steal. It's such a risky move. They didn't need it to control this game. They had the lead. They built it for themselves. Look at that farm. The way they built the lead is still showing. There's 430 CS on Freeze to 271 of Creatine. But at this point, who cares? You're going to be taking so much damage from the team with Baron taking down your team. There's 2 inhibitors down. Alternate can just push up this 3rd one. And Maluno needs to find the cleanest of initiations if NIP wants any chance here. Alternate can take their time or go. It doesn't matter for them because the super minions will force someone from NIP back unless NIP goes almost immediately.
But who's he going to lock up? Who's he going to go for now? Does he go for Ferelnor? He's got the Zhonya's. Does he go for Creaton? Creaton himself is not really the damage threat. It's Kerp that's the problem, and Kerp's not someone you're going to twist his advance onto.
Yeah, this is trouble in a lot of ways because Kerp is one of the, if not the main damage threat for him. He had 200 ability power when he picked up that triple kill, by the way. Now he's at 604. He's a bit more threatening now than before he got the triple kill.
And they are fighting for this inhibitor. They're trying to defend it. Aranea in there, though, still got that Banshee's Veil. Nobody popping it. And they NIP trying to bully them back, but I feel that Alternate are just about ready to pull the trigger.
Any moment. At the same time, NIP might just be forced into them, and that's what Alternate's waiting for because they're slowly getting that inhibitor down. And if NIP goes into Alternate, then Alternate has the edge.
Mima comes across, gets on towards Kerp. The Stranglethorns is going to do a good bit of lockup. The Great White will pop up. There's going to be a Kerp down. Kerp down. That's the big deal. Bjergsen goes in, but he gets locked up. Alternate still might turn this one back around. Mima's going to be the front-loaded tank target there. We saw the Deathfire Grasp getting fired off, but he isn't going to do enough. And Ninja Pyjamas still backing away from this one. It's still a 4-on-4. The main damage dealer of Alternate down.
But here's the risk. When Bjergsen dies, Freeze has to kill the whole team, and I don't think he can do that. Alternate's still pushing in. They have the Baron region and the heals of Sona. NIP re-engages.
They catch on towards Ferelnor. Zhonya's Hourglass had to be used. They do catch in towards it, but Aranea, look at Creaton. The bullet time coming across. Aranea taken so low. J. Reed getting himself a kill on Deficio, and this is still dangerous play. There's the ace in the hole from Freeze. Catching on. Ferelnor going to run away from this one. Alternate disengage, and Ninja Pyjamas hold on just a little bit longer.
Well, Freeze almost did it. He almost killed the whole team at that point. He, with his max item build now, was able to barely pick off Aranea at the end and save that last turret. That's incredibly crucial, because if NIP would have lost that, they would essentially lose the 3rd inhibitor and the game, because I feel like once 3 inhibitors are down for this team, it's over.
So, Dragon has going to be coming up. I don't think anyone's really going to be fighting over that one, because the gold, look at it, it's just 1,000 between them, 45 5 minutes almost gone in this game. 13-12, not exactly a crazy high-scoring match, but there has been plenty of action. And as it is, this is so tight between the two. We saw, though, they have the ability to lock up and kill Kerp at the start of a fight. They just need to keep Bjergsen alive after that.
Really, whoever Mimer lands his taunt on, they do have the ability to blow up. They were in a very similar situation yesterday against Alex Each's Kale, where they did it 2 fights in a row and were able to just completely take him out.
Well, Infinity Edge now on Freeze as well. He has full build, effectively. He has everything he needs. Kraton, in the meantime, he's gone for a Spectral Crown in there, so he's worried about Bjergsen more than anything else. And why not? Because Kraton now is a damage threat, despite the fact he's 0-1-6. Hasn't been overly involved in getting those kills, but now, after being so far behind, he still is. Still nearly 200, he's nearly 200 CS behind Freeze. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it has not been a good game for him, but he's made the best of a bad situation. Alternate now trying round 2 on this very low turret, still having 2 inhibitors down, meaning NIP will have to peel back to clear minions unless they go almost immediately. With that inhibitor respawn, if NIP doesn't go in on the next wave or peel back very soon, they're going to lose the inhibitor that just respawned, or even some Nexus turrets. That's why Maluno's going in, or thinking about going in, and Alternate sitting so far back.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Maluno, I think.
Waiting game.
Once again, it's going to be Kurt, but look at that. They only need a couple of shots. If Kraton could get in, just get a couple of shots on towards that turret, it will go down so quickly. And there's super minions in that top lane, in the middle lane as well. The inhibitor on the top lane actually being hit by a bunch of minions. So Ninjas and Pyjamas, they are just being baited into this one. Alternate happy to hold on this fight.
Yeah, they're losing their inhibitor right now. That's why Bjergsen's going, and that's why Alternate gets the turret. NIP trying to turn it back around, goes for the fight.
Twisted Advance goes into the pool, and that's going to be Stranglethorns down. That's a very good engage by Mimer getting in towards it. Vault Breaker from Aranea does manage to get on towards it. Deficio taken so low at the back there. Bjergsen gets in, gets Kraton down, Stan United on towards Bjergsen. Is it enough to save him?
Here comes
He
Freeze.
gets the Playful Trickster, he gets away. Kerp goes down, now Freeze on towards Frelnord. Frelnord trying to turn this one around. He goes aggressive on towards Freeze, but he hasn't got enough damage. Freeze picks himself up the kill. Freeze now chasing on towards J-Reed. J-Reed's going to flash across, and he gets away. Ninjas and Pyjamas hold out much longer, but no. Can they take down? Oh! No! Bjergsen's baited everyone away from the turret. The Nexus turret on nothing. That last minion was going to hit it. And Bjergsen saved it with a Playful Trickster.
And they get a 4-for-1 hold. They did lose another inhibitor, so it's 2 inhibitors down once again, but they have a small window here. Freeze can kill turrets extremely fast. Maluno is thinking about tanking it with his face. They're trying to get an inhibitor back to maybe re-equalize this game a little bit.
Can they get the turret down quick enough? That's the question. J-Reed's going to come up. He's got 15 seconds to be on some alone time here. Mimer will come up and tank it out as well. Remember, Baron is up in 30 seconds, so this is dangerous play NIP, because they're going to be low after this, and Alternate could just turn it around, run straight for Baron. It is going to be the turret down. They're not going to have the time for the inhibitor, though.
And they don't get the inhibitor, plus I think they lose the Baron as well. Even if they would have gotten an inhibitor or pulled back sooner, being down 2 inhibitors makes it almost impossible to leave your base to realistically contest a Baron. I think this just goes to Alternate if they decide to take it.
Well, they don't really have the ward placement either. It is only Deficio with wards, and he's not going to get close enough. Alternate are basically going into this one. They're blind as well, to be fair. They have good ward coverage now. They've just managed to defend it out there, but it is going to be the Baron going down. It's Alternate that will pick it up. Ninjas in Pyjamas are sticking around a little bit close to this one. Mimer's in there. NIP want to contest it. There may have to be a peel from Alternate here.
This is a incredibly risky contest. Because NIP was just pushed out of their base, the super minions are not hitting down their inhibitors yet, but they could be very soon. What's actually happening from NIP here is Bjergsen's taking out super minions in mid. If Freeze could get over to the other lane and keep super minions back, NIP could actually realistically hold this. This is very smart play by them.
Bjergsen's going straight for the inhibitor. It's just gone straight for it. Beeline straight on there.
J-Reed's caught out!
And J-Reed's taking so low, he gets there. There's going to be the crescendo, but Freeze is cut out. The Assault and Battery, will it be enough? The Guardian Angel's
all
going to
their
come up
damage is gone.
They need it. It's a teleport coming in. Bjergsen's coming in the back line. That's going to get on towards Freeze. Freeze gets away from it.
He's still alive!
In there, Kraton's going to get taken down. Bjergsen gets back on towards him. Pharrell not taking so low now. Kerp's going to get away. Has to pull away from that one. Ninjas and Pyjamas so low. Ace enough. He runs up towards him. It's a dunk from downtown. Bjergsen gets in, and would you believe it? It's a 4-for-0.
from nothing. Alternate NIP had almost no chance of making anything good happen here. And now with so many dead, it looks like Freeze is just gonna try to go for the base. Bai is also trying to backdoor while Bjergsen defends. This is madness.
Super Minions did manage to take down a Nexus turret for Alternate. They're also on the inhibitor down the bottom. We see Aranea is on the inhibitor. Bjergsen's heading towards him. Aranea is not going to take that down quick enough. While Freeze and Maluno, they're on towards the inhibitor in the mid lane of Alternate's base.
40 seconds on most priority targets for Alternate here. J-Re only has about 10 seconds left. They're gonna go for this one. Mimer and Maluno can tank this one out. No, they decide to just clear inhibitors.
They cannot finish the game. Instead, they're just gonna try and take a little bit of glory. Remember, Aranea is back here. J-Re's respawned now. Yeah, he's gonna buy time. They've got to be careful. They are gonna back away, because remember, the Baron is still up. That is still a viable target for both teams.
Oh my God, NIP just did that. So after losing a large portion of the game off of a bad Baron play, they make a tremendous play in the Baron area to get a fight with inhibitors down. And could it happen again? Could Aranea go and steal another one? Because he has a chance.
Wow, he is off the side. Bjergsen's going to go towards him, throws the great white shark towards him. It's not a great white shark, it's a killer whale. Nevertheless, it is going to be a Mimer gets on towards him, and Aranea is going to back away. The Baron will go down. It's Ninjas in Pyjamas now that have the Baron buff.
So they learned from their mistake in that case, and they put harassment down onto Aranea. They made sure he couldn't jump over, so it was an uncontested smite for Maluno. And yes, they lost another inhibitor. They might actually have to wait a little bit longer, because these minions and their base are in an amazing amount of danger. They can't actually leave safely without it. They're still not out of the woods yet in this game.
So, Runlord takes down the Dragon, which is going to keep the gold within stretching distance, let's put it that way. It's going to be a 8,000, well, about 7,000 gold lead, but when we're talking 80,000 to 72.9, it's all about the death timers now. The gold isn't such a huge deal. It is only the second Dragon of the game, though, for Alternate, but the item stacking across the board. Looking at Freeze, he sold his boots and picked up a Zephyr.
Even more damage. This is the true 6-item AD carry at this point. As much possible damage as he can be kicking out. And he's just trying his hardest to carry this game. It's amazing that he lived through that last fight when he basically got caught up by a whole team. Him and Bjergsen are doing all of the damage for the most part, because Mimer, Maluno, and Deficio are all about supporting and utility, which is one of the big reasons Freeze was able to stay alive, is because they had so much there to help him out in team fights. It still just means this game is ridiculously risky and still up in the air.
Speaking of team fights, it's incredible to see the kills and assists spread, because you can see that Mimer and Maluno, they've been involved in 18 of the 21 kills that have happened in this game. 16 of them, of course, Bjergsen in there as well. It's incredible how an NIP effectively have just simply fought as a team the entire time. Alternate, I guess you could say in the same respect, are pretty much in that same boat, because for Unlord has been involved in 12 of the 13 kills for Alternate, and Alternate at the moment still have a pretty good position. They can see the waves. There's no one pushing close. So this Baron is just simply timing out on NIP right now.
And NIP basically needed that Baron to recover their base. At this point in the game, they have put up, you can see how many wards Alternate's put in their own jungle, because they're ridiculously scared of someone from Alternate sneaking into their base and trying to kill their Nexus. But since they've shown in this top lane, they're going to be trying to push extremely hard. Also, Alternate's all recalling back for the base. We could see a bit of a fight here. No one's really snuck away for Alternate, and NIP has a pretty good idea that that's the case. Diving a turret with all these tanks and only 2 damage dealers is actually something they can accomplish fairly well, as long as Mimer or Maluno go first.
But they've got to have flashbacks of yesterday. They were in the exact same position against Gambit. They went for it and it backfired, but that tower is going down. Freeze manages to get on towards it.
He's hitting it hard.
Now are absolutely hammering these inhibitor, and that's going to be the second inhibitor of the game down for Alternate now. So we've had 4 inhibitors across the board down so far. Alternate are the ones that are 2 inhibitors down. Into Pyjamas, all of their inhibitors are back up. All of the lanes starting to push up. They've got to be careful they don't fall into the same pitfalls that Alternate did.
And the tables have turned yet again. NIP had 2 inhibitors down to take 2 inhibitors down of their own. It is so rare that you see a team come back from 2 inhibitors down, but it seems like NIP may have a chance to do so. You don't see games like this without at least a couple mistakes, but you also have to make a whole bunch of plays here, as NIP has made up for their mistake at Baron earlier, and now they seem to be in control.
Reynolds was down in the bottom lane. He's just teleported back, but it's bought Freeze plenty of time to just get absolute hits on there. Assault of battery onto Freeze. Freeze flashes away. He's out the back. Kurt's taken so low already. He's having to pull away from this one. Bjergsen is doing damage. Gets the playful tricks that lands on all 4 members of Alternate, and that is just ripping them apart. It's going to be a triple. That's going to be Freeze getting himself. There's going to be another hit. Freeze is not going to die though. Sorry, as Curve gets away with it. It's a triple kill for Bjergsen. That may be the game for Ninjas in Pyjamas.
It's got to be 4 for 0. A brilliant dive there by NAP. They took the comeback, 55 minutes, and they're going on to the Nexus.
Ninjas in Pyjamas, they take game 1 against Alternate. It was such a hard-fought battle. 55 minutes into this game, Curve just trolling out Freeze. Just hit the Nexus turret, guys, because you have taken game 1. But boy, did they have to fight for it.
What a comeback. And what does this mean for the next game? These guys played close games all of yesterday. NIP finally able to pull one of them out because they got 0-2 yesterday. Getting this win must mean so much, and I wonder if it's just going to turn this into a 2-0.
Some big, deep sighs for NIP there. And you know, we talked about the confidence Alternate had, and maybe it was just overconfident after a while because they were big smiles. They knew they turned it around from the jaws of defeat. They got themselves back into it, but then again they let it go, let it slip away the side. And honestly, it was brave play from NIP because you were saying like at the time, they can't fight for this, Barry.
Exactly, because there was such a small window for them to make anything happen. If all Alternate did in that situation was just pull back for Baron. As soon as they moved towards the inhibitor, it was kind of moving into a place where NIP wanted to be. And there were a couple mistakes on both sides for these teams, but I definitely say the bigger play was made on NIP to capitalize on the last one, and that's what mattered most.
So as the players take a break, of course, we will be doing the same pass and everything analysis in just a moment. But how do you see in that game? I mean, where do you look towards it? We've seen Fizz banned so many times. Is it viable? Is it worthy of a ban? Because they almost controlled him for a while there.
It's so strange. I feel like Pharrell and Lord kind of let himself down in that game because he had the counter, he had a pick against Fizz, whatever he wanted, and he could not deal with it. I don't necessarily think Fizz is worthy from a ban here, but